Welcome back to the Kovacs Report comic book review show with my good buddy, Jimmy X. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, hey man, hey everyone, all right?
Yeah, it's good. He's got his X-Men and Transformers t-shirt. Show off. Well, I know you want to. There we go. Yes, a little hint of what may be coming. Blah, blah, blah. Tongue twisted. I'm tongue twisted because there's so much to say this week. So, review show. We will spoil them. Check them out before you watch our video because we are going to tell you everything that happens in the books. And we're going to jump straight into it. A little bit late this week, as per usual. We're a new show. I keep saying that. It's going to get old. But here we go. More vampires, Jim. I know you love them.
That's it, yeah. DC versus Vampires, World War V, issue 1, published by DC, obviously. Written by Matthew Rosenberg, with art by cover art and Otto Schmidt, and I'm not familiar with these creators. Plus, this is an Elseworld story, and that means it's not in the main DC continuity. It's got no bearing on anything that happens month to month. So that's why I didn't want to read it. And here we go. Our story starts 9 months ago. Our story starts 9 months ago with a pair of Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Carl Rayner, returning to Earth after some time away, fighting a war on the other side of the cosmos. They notice the snow and cold conditions are wrong for this time of year in the hemisphere. So they come across a group of heroes led by Blue Beetle, the Jaime Reyes version. You've probably seen in the movie. They ask if fellow Green Lantern Hal Jordan made it back before them and where he is. Beetle says, sorry, but they killed him at the start of the fighting. Stewart asks, who killed him? The heroes reveal fangs as they reveal they're actually vampires, grinning. The humans killed him before the Beetle orders the other vamps, including Elongated Man and Hawk Girl, to tear them apart. The Lanterns leap into action, activating their power rings to project glowing green armor and force fields around them. But a vampiric Wonder Woman scotches that, leaping at them with their shield, shattering the defenses and impaling Rayner on her sword. And this was pretty cool to see.
It does sound pretty cool.
John Stewart then flies up into the air to get away, but he's not fast enough because Elongated Man stretches into a huge vampiric snake, chomping the lantern and swallowing him whole. His jubilation, however, is short-lived as John uses the power ring inside him to explode the snake from the inside, killing him instantly, shouting, "You sick freak! Don't you get it? We came back to save you!" And then he's set upon and torn apart by the rest of the vampiric heroes.
Nice.
That was 9 months ago. Cutting to now, a convoy is belonging to the Vampire Queen, who we learn is Barbara Gordon. And it's hijacked by a vampiric Damian Wayne, the most recent Robin, son of Bruce Wayne, backed up by Kate Kane, a.k.a. Batwoman. They kill all but one of the men who are on the convoy, writing a message on his forehead in holy water so he won't forget it. They are coming. And then next up, we switch to a meeting between a diplomatic envoy, vampire ape Gorilla Grodd, and another group of survivors, including Green Arrow and John Constantine. Grodd tells them that he brings a message from Queen Gordon, and he goes full Game of Thrones in this description. Daughter born of blood, mother of all vampires, and a ruler of the 7 continents. The cursed child, Damian Wayne, and his transgressions against them must be stopped. You will deal with him, or we shall. And obviously his mother, Talia al Ghul, doesn't take kindly to having her son being threatened in front of her. So then we cut to a Batman attacking a bunch of vampires who are threatening a man and a baby. They seem to let this is Superman, but it's not made completely clear. And we learn that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, former Batman, they died years ago. So who's this new Batman? Well, my guess is probably Tim Drake, their third Robin. But anyway, the issue ends abruptly with Damian Wayne's assassin, Hush, I'm not going into Hush, infiltrating Vampire Queen Barbara's tower and attacking her, setting her on fire and pushing her off the top of the building where she plummets to the ground below. This was all over the place, Angelo. I mean, it had a really impressive opening sequence, but yeah, I don't know whether there's been a mini-series before this
there's been 2 or 3 volumes of it, actually, funnily enough.
Oh, really? Okay,
well, there's been quite a bit of stuff. Yeah. So no thumbs up from Jimmy this week on this one.
I mean, if it was in regular DC continuity, I might look a bit more favourably on it. But Elseworlds, I mean, unless an Elseworlds book is it's got a really interesting premise, like I don't know, Mark Millar's Red Sun, Superman, or Gotham by Gaslight. It's not going to hook me in. I can't recommend this one.
I take it that's a resounding thumbs down then. Okay, mate, no worries. First book of the week out of the way. Let's get the second book of the week. Out the way.
Why?
I, I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite character. Like, it always
Why
has
do you
been.
do this to yourself?
Because I love Spidey. He's always, always, and always will be my favorite character. And I just got to
Staying
look.
out of it. Okay.
Oh my god. Anyway, Zeb Wells, an art by Emilio Lacio. Major Spider-Man, 55. Anyway, on the subject of Zeb Wells, he's continuing to take a paycheck from Marvel for essentially horseshit, as usual. I have no idea how the same writer penned, in my opinion, one of the most greatest and fun She-Hulk runs of all time. But here we are. The irony is it's a top-selling book, right? Which really, it's the delusional Zeb Wells fanboys say, well, it's selling really well, so it must be good. It isn't. It isn't, because I'm reading it, and I'm reading it because I support Spider-Man the character, not Zeb Wells the writer. That's why. That's why we keep buying it. It's because we love Spidey, not Zeb Wells. And I'm really sorry, Zeb Wells. You'll never probably do an interview on this show ever because I've been so horrible. But the truth of the matter is, it's shockingly bad. Anyway, let's jump. So this issue, it shifts from the arcs that have been rolling to like a sort of a middle of the road, one issue little story, a more personal story focused on Peter Parker attempting to gain some like semblance of normalcy after the chaotic events of the previous arcs when he's possessed by the dark essence of the Green Goblin. Enough said about that. This entire issue revolves around Peter going on an awkward date with current love interest Shay. So it's all set over a restaurant table, and the entire issue is them in conversation, bar one little scene. And it repeats the same old shite that every other love interest story goes through, which is, oh, you're late. You keep disappearing. Do you even like me? You know, anyway, it's the whole Peter struggling to balance being a superhero and his own personal life style story. And Shane gets more and more pissed off as the story progresses until through the window, Peter notices Rhino and Screwball flying past, causing destruction, fighting, causing chaos. So he runs out naturally. Oh, where are you going, Peter? You're disappearing again, type of thing. And you see him go to pull his shirt off to reveal his Spidey suit in a panel. Then it jumps to the next page, and it's Peter Parker standing in front of the Rhino and Screwball saying, hey, man, like, just cut me a break, dude. Like, I'm trying to have a date. It's all going wrong. You know, can't you just call it for one night, you know, help a brother out? And they're like, yeah, you know what? We've been there. We get it. We're going to be good. Go on. Have a nice date. I'm not making this up. It's a failed attempt at what I call the Bendis method, which is you don't put the character in costume at all. And you have a panel where it's, you know what I mean? You have a panel where it's the two characters talking to
only
each
too
other.
well.
And it's brilliant. You think, my God, it's brilliant. And then you realise, hold on a minute, they've just been chatting. They never even put the costumes on. He's tried it, except it didn't work. It was awful. Awful. And at the end of the issue, you've got Screwball and Rhino sitting on top of a building, and Screwball's helping Rhino set up a dating profile. And I'm like, what is this? It's awful. Basically a breather issue before getting the final arc where Spidey and Tombstone throw down. Absolutely terrible. Avoid it. Goodbye, Mr. Wells. I hate it. Moving on to...
It's okay, because Joe Kelly is coming in November. Joe Kelly.
You know what? He could write terrible stories and they'd still be better than what we got now. That's the way I look at it. It can't get any worse, right? Yes, into Unbeing number 3. I got you on this one, didn't I? You
did, yeah. After reading issue 1, you recommended issue 2 I should review, and I did, and I loved it.
Good.
So, issue 3, Into the Unbeing.
Let's hear
part 1, issue 3. Published by Dark Horse, written by Zach Thompson, who really is becoming one of my creators to watch. He does an amazing book called Blow Away that's ending next month. Really, really cool. More isolation stuff. Mm-hmm. With art and cover art by Hayden Sherman. And, all right, okay, so to recap very briefly, in 2034, the Scientific Institute for Nation Ecology or Worlds, or SINU, have sent a group of climate change scientists to investigate a landmass in the shape of a giant body in the Australian outback. Losing their team leader after the first night spent inside the cave, the remaining 3 pushed on into the guts of the landmass, discovering the body and the journal of an explorer who went missing decades before in Nepal.
No.
Third issue is told from the point of view of Selva, the team's entomologist. After a brief flashback to the expedition, before the expedition, showing our protagonist pinning and examining dead insects in a tent, We get back to where we left the team last issue, with the team staring down into a ravine filled with jagged, sharp, teeth-like rocks, figuring the only way down is through it, and rappelling is the only course of action. So they climb down slowly, with Selva stopping to dig out a 66-million-year-old fossil of a naked trisopod larvae, remarking that the dorsal basket is still intact, placing it in a sinew-branded specimen container. And then they carry on climbing down, noting that the skin is gelatinous, but the blockage isn't, musing that whatever this is, and I think they've come around to the fact it isn't a cave. I think they've come around to the fact this is a dead creature.
Yeah, body of some kind.
Yeah. They're musing that it might have choked on a bone, and that might have been the landmass that was very, very different. There's something nesting below them as they rappel further. The lead member comes face to face with a horror resembling a fleshy inside-out deer, if you can picture that. Well, another team member has managed to use her knife to break through the fleshy wall. Let's face it, it's flesh. Selva fires the gun. She fires the gun at it, and it gives chase in a really cool little sequence, and they barely escape in time. They swim through and they emerge in a clearing, realizing that they've been swimming through blood. Instead of camping, they keep moving. Selva notes the biodiversity is nuts here, defying everything that she knows of the world. Another flashback to before, where she's revealed to be the only survivor of a horrific canoe trip. All three of the protagonists so far have had really horrible things happen to them before this, so this is going on a theme. Anyway, they decide to camp finally using the portaledge method used by RT expeditions. That's where you pin your tent and you hang it literally from the wall of a cave.
Cliff, yeah.
Nuts.
I've seen some of those crazy people do it, man. I've been like, no way, never doing that.
Yeah, free solo. They're exhausted and frayed, and they're arguing about what they're doing there. Do they want to find their leader who went missing 2 issues ago? Do they want to escape? Selva then gets drawn into the creepy Lovecraft and the Mountains of Madness style journal that they found on the body of the explorer. And yeah, there's some messed up stuff in that. They awake, rested and refueled, except for Selva, who couldn't sleep after the Nightmare Journal, and she wants to wait till she's on solid ground again to sleep. So as they start packing up, one of them warns her to be careful, folding things up. It's best to make a new set of anchors for the descent. As she's packing up, the anchor works itself loose from the ledge and snaps, and it plunges her straight down past her teammates into this abyss. And she lands standing up, and we see that she's broken her leg and both ankles on impact. The issue ends with her just sprawled on the ground. Ouch. Bleak. Yeah, again, absolutely love this. One of the best books I've read this week. I get the feeling that if this was a Netflix show or a movie, this would get far more attention than it's getting now. Yeah, stick the guy who did the new Alien movie on it. I'm sure he could do a great job. But anyway, yeah, really, really cool stuff.
Well, you never know, mate. I mean, they're all picking up comic stuff left, right, and centre, aren't they? Good. So that's a thumbs up from Jim. Right, I got to apologise, Jim, for what's about to come. No, not my terrible language that you're about to hear. Oh, I'm really sorry. I said I wouldn't do it.
Angelo, what have you done?
Well, it was a thin week on books, my friend, and I needed to get another review in. I'm sorry, mate.
Okay.
Venom War.
Oh.
Spider-Man. I'm sorry. I just love Spidey. I'm like, it's like a drug addict, mate, going back for that one last fix.
At this point, Angelo, this is self-inflicted, man. I can't help you anymore.
I'm sorry, mate. I can't believe I did it either, mate. I'm really, really sorry, mate.
This Venom War is the event that the event guy, this guy, backed away from, saying nope.
I know. Look, if it's any consolation, I was punished over 30 times. That's once for every page I had to read of this. Let's get into this short review. The story kicks off, as you know from my last review about this whole Venom War thing, the disillusioned Venom, right? He's guilt-ridden over the damage he's caused both Brock and his son, and he's been hiding in Peter Parker's closet, awaiting his own demise. I mean, come on, hiding in a closet. This is Venom. Anyway, when Peter discovers Venom, instead of fully bonding like they normally do, they form a partnership instead, which means they're working together as separate entities. And this is supposed to sort of like underscore Peter's growth and his refusal to let the symbiote control him again. Doesn't do that. It just makes it even more boring. Anyway, they're swinging through the city and they're ambushed by an army of hobgoblins who are mainly brainwashed citizens. They're all dressed in the hobgoblin suit, and they have the same weapons and the goblin gliders. He's in there too. And there's loads of fights, pages and pages of them fighting. And just as Spidey is about to be defeated, Zeb Wells' bullshit strikes again. And we get Mary Jane appear as Jackpot, the superhero Jackpot. And she saves Peter, of course, right? This is all sort of overlaid with Peter and Venom talking to each other, which is just as dull as the plot. Meanwhile, some maniacal monologuing suit at Alchemax is watching from a window in a skyscraper, and he presses his 1980s TV remote. I'm sure you will remember them from those days. A big click, and then boom, hobgoblins, they turn into this arachniote, which is like a symbiote Cthulhu mashup monster. And Venom and Peter, they must bond again. They must bond again, become one to defeat it. To add insult to injury, Greg Land's usually delightful artwork. So it looks a bit rushed, mate. And like, I'm not sure if it's like the inkers killed it with like overly inking it or the colouring or whatever, but it's definitely not his best work. Plus, some of Mary Jane's facial expressions look like they've traced it off the latest Pornhub video, and it's really odd. Anyways, I don't care what others are saying online. This was hard work to get through. Someone at the Spider-Man office has to answer for this shit because it feels like it was written by ChatGTP. I mean, the whole concept of Eddie starting a war with his teenage son to get his favourite pajamas back is just it's a leap even for comics. Read it, don't read it. I'm gonna try and forget it. Next. Terrible. Next. From one event to another.
My opinion is Venom hasn't been cool since Spider-Man Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, issue 375. That was the last time Venom was cool.
There we go. He was slightly cool in Mark Miller's bit. He appeared in Mark Miller for a while, yeah. But other than that, it's just terrible. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's move on. Event time.
Okay.
Absolute Power.
Yes. Absolute Power. Task Force 7, issue 4, published by DC, written by Pornsak Pichot, with art by Claire Rowe.
You know what? We really need to find out how to pronounce his name, don't we?
We really do.
We do. We promise next time that we will get the pronunciation correct. I'm just scared to read his books in case I have to read out his name.
Yeah, I don't often quote citations or synopsises, but I had to. This line spoke to me. The mechanical murder menace of Failsafe. Previously in Absolute Power, Amanda Waller's Trinity of Evil have devoured 80% of DC's heroes, and Nightwing has assumed command of the remaining resistance, sending them on missions before they were all scattered by the Brainiac Queen's assault in issue 2 of Absolute Power. We open in Gotham City with Failsafe, who is the partitioned essence of Batman's dark side, trapped in a Terminator robot. Well, no, not trapped. He put himself in a Terminator-style robot that Batman also created to stop him in case he stepped out of line. That came back to bite you, didn't it, Batman? Anyway, we open with Failsafe tracking Titans member Voodoo as she makes her way through the maze of owls. He mockingly narrates, "Batman always wins. This is Gotham's mantra." Cutting to the conference wing of the Maze of Owls. That's something that was introduced in the Court of Owls run in Snyder's run on Batman.
And very good.
Very cool stuff. Scott Snyder's run on Batman, yeah.
Yes.
So Dick Grayson, a.k.a. Nightwing, has met up with his brother, Tim Drake, a.k.a. Robin, who has formed a resistance of his own. As well as Priscilla, the aforementioned Voodoo, there are also former Titans, the Ray, and McGann, a.k.a. Miss Martian. She was in Jeff Johns' run on Teen Titans. They've been depowered previously, so I don't know whether I missed an issue again. If so, thanks, DC, for not publishing these books in the right order. But yeah, they've been depowered. They're basically barely escaping Failsafe with their lives, and they've stockpiled an array of weapons, prototype weapons from Priscilla's employers, the Halo Corporation, including experimental prototypes and also experimental Semtex plastic explosive. McGann asks, what is Failsafe? A robotic Batman? Nightwing explains he has all of Batman's skills, but none of his compassion. He really doesn't have any of Batman's compassion, as you'll see. Meanwhile, Failsafe defeated Voodoo easily, knocking her unconscious, and is about to capture her and take her in, when Nightwing leaps down and slaps some Semtex on the back of his neck, and then detonates it. The others join in with Tim yelling, "Now!" while he's staggered. It's our only chance, hurling more Semtex at the murder bot, while Ray and Miss Martian blast in with their weapon prototypes. Failsafe analyzes his foes, and he sees McGann as the weakest. So he savagely attacks her and snaps her arm in a wince-inducing sequence.
Nice.
Nightwing charges in, yelling, "You monster!" at the robot as Failsafe just slaps him away like he's nothing. And then he makes short work of Ray and Tim, taking them down easily. And then, scarily, he heals himself, T-1000 Terminator style. There's then a brief interlude to Waller's base in Gamora, and we see Wonder Woman's boyfriend, Steve Trevor. He witnesses dozens of villains building what appears to be a giant Stargate or portal. Back to the battle in the Maze of Owls. Miss Martian arrives on the floor in agony. Failsafe is taunting a frustrated Nightwing, saying, you're the leader because you naturally inspire people to follow. That means every death, every wound, every scream of pain only happens because you wouldn't do more to save them and because you refuse to and don't care enough to adapt.
Ouch.
Miss Martian barges into Failsafe with the last of her strength, shouting at Dick to take the others and go. She detonates the rest of Robin's bag of experimental Semtex, blowing the floor so the other four can escape through the underground river running below. The issue ends with Nightwing telling the others that McGann better be okay, because if she's not, he's going to storm Waller's prison and tear that robot limb from limb. Meanwhile, Failsafe's narration tells us Batman always wins. Yeah. I can't pronounce your name right, or I'm really sorry. I'll learn to. But yes, this was fantastic. Please write more Nightwing. Please write more Failsafe. This was a joy to read. I really, really enjoyed this one.
Excellent. I'm glad. So that's a thumbs up for that one. Amazing. Okay. Right. Let's move on to the next one. Ultimates 3. You see, I was really excited about the whole Ultimates relaunch because I remember when it popped out the first time, and you and I were on it all the way through, right? And it was a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of good stuff. We won't talk about Ultimates after the Mark Miller left. But anyway, Ultimates 3, Dennis Camp and art by Julian Frigeri, right? So after the mess that was issue 2, when the Ultimates randomly stormed the White House for no apparent reason and utterly bored us to death with an issue-long punch-up with President Midas, Iron Lad, Thor and Sif are now exploring a Pacific island devastated by a gamma bomb, detonated by Banner Ulam Initiative. Very naughty. So the trio discover like a hellscape-filled, gamma-radiated, kaiju-sized monsters roaming everywhere, grotesquely mutated creatures, plants, animals, humans. They're all fucked up from the gamma, right? It's a super hostile environment. And after a punch-up with a giant beast and a Hulk-like creature, they meet Lajori Joanna Zakaria. Now, she's the She-Hulk of this universe and also the protector of the island and its mutated inhabitants. She's jacked to fuck. Like, she is she is built, right? And she's also intelligent and in complete control of her body and mind, unlike the raging mad Hulk from, other universes or other Hulks. Her introduction is actually quite a fresh origin story, right? And it kind of doubles as a haunting reflection of the devastation caused by weapons of mass destruction. So it's actually really, really good. I quite liked it. She explains that her tragic backstory is tied to the gamma bomb fallout. And we learn from it that Dr. Bruce Banner is actually a member of the Makers Council and willingly and deliberately used the island for gamma bomb testing and purposely exposed the island to the deadly gamma radiation fallout so he could, figure out what happens to humans. Naughty, naughty boy. Anyway, She-Hulk also introduces them to a village of dead or dying mutated villagers, right? They're a mess. One's like a walking nervous system. One's in a wheelchair. None of them can fight. They're going to be dead by the end of the issue. That's how bad they look. But like Iron Lad still tries to convince them to help him fight the Maker. So he says, look, I'll restore the island if you give us the help, right? Because he believes that an army of Hulks is just what they need to get together the Ultimates, and all the other heroes that are eventually going to come together and take down the Maker. But they're very, very reluctant. One, they're just in no position to do it. Two, the land is promised and sacred. It's like they don't really want to leave their land. They're there forever. It's important to them. But he convinces them as long as he restores it back to its original state, which he rattles off like all the things they'll have to do, like sift every grain of soil and check every blade of grass. Anyway, they agree to help. Don't know how they're going to do it because they're a mess. And the issue ends with Iron I don't know if it is Bruce Banner, but there's some Banner Hulks which are all jacked, looking super healthy, super strong. They're watching a video feed and they're not happy with the bargain that's being struck. So that's how the issue ends. It's less action heavy. The whole issue is more focused on psychological impacts of the mission and more emotional side of it. It was compelling and unsettling, and I think it sets the stage for a showdown with the maker. It was interesting. I actually quite liked it. Yeah, it was the best issue by far. Now, if they continue this, I think it might shape up, but because the first issues I think were terrible, not bad, and I would definitely say it's a recommend. Yeah, I would. It was worth reading. Yeah. So moving on. Oh no, that little snort laugh says it all.
Oh, well, last week we were having a bit of a love-in over Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men issue 1, weren't we? And I thought, mate, foolishly,
so good.
Maybe foolishly, I can't confirm or deny, I thought, I can't wait to read me some more X-Men. Maybe issue 2 will be on the par of this. And here we go. X-Men issue 2, published by Marvel, written by Jed MacKay, with art and cover art again by Ryan Stegman. So to briefly recap, the X-Men are now post-Krakoa, operating out of a ex-Sentinel factory in Alaska. They've come up against a new protagonist called the Fourth School, who activate mutants as adults, not puberty, as was traditionally the case. And so we start off with Ben, a guy in his late teens and clearly homeless, sitting on the floor of an alleyway with a handwritten sign. It reads, "Help me, alien abduction survivor." His eyes start to glow a telltale pink, and he mutters to a concerned social worker about aliens coming back for him. Meanwhile, the X-Men have taken the Marauder, their boat/spaceship, to San Francisco. Historically, it's always been good to them, to locate another mutant activation, only to find themselves in the middle of a full-scale alien invasion. Stegman's art still frustratingly depicts Cyclops, an actual teen antagonist, Quentin Quire, as roughly the same age.
What is it with the art in this book? They all look like they're 12. It's really, really worrying, right?
Yeah, I mean, this should be the kid standing up to like the seasoned. It's the season leader, I
know, but it makes me ask other questions like, why are you drawing these characters so young? It's really, really, really bizarre. I don't know. Like, even the cover, like, look, anyway, Cyclops doesn't like. You're right. I'm going off on a tangent.
Cyclops reveals he hates calling Quire by his code name, Kid Omega. I think that's supposed to get a laugh, but yeah. Cyclops tells his team it's also made up of Magic, Juggernaut, Psylocke, and Temper. But the new mutant activation is their top priority. But they're not going to ignore the aliens, but the mutant is their top priority. Magic asks him if the little green men worry him, and he replies, "I'm not worried. I'm flanked by 2 dangerous women with swords, and when I was 13, that's how I imagine heaven must look like." Which I'll give that. That's I think we can all relate. Kid Omega goes on the offensive, using the Marauder to launch a telekinetic assault of Tenacious D-style mind bullets at the alien fleet. It's also a fun moment where the Juggernaut gets launched from the Marauder's cannon as a human cannonball straight through the alien mothership, taking it out. During the battle, using a psychic knife, Psylocke discovers that the aliens and their tech simply disintegrate and fade away after being taken down. This leads Cyclops to discover that it's actually the manifesting illusion powers of the newly activated mutant. It's not an alien invasion at all. So they confront the terrified young mutant. Scott, Magic, and Psylocke tell him they understand what he's going through and they're here to help him. He dismisses them, yelling, "You're aliens and you're going to take me away in your spaceship." And Magic's like, "Well, the Marauder is a spaceship, so you kind of got us on that one." Ben glows a dangerous-looking pink while his social worker looks on helplessly. Ben shouts he's too old to be a mutant, and aliens took him captive and did stuff to him on their spaceship. And Cyclops is like, maybe it isn't aliens that kidnapped you, maybe it was someone else, maybe it's antagonists from the last issue. Ben then appears to explode, his manifesting mutant powers literally burning him out on the street, until it's revealed on the last page that I bet you, Angelo, was a QR code originally.
Probably.
That Kid Omega and Magic combine their powers to make it look like he died to anyone watching the battle, anyone watching. The truth being that Ben is alive and well, safe at the X-Men's Alaskan HQ, being cared for by their only appearance in this issue, Beast and Magneto. Yeah, I mean, it was better than issue one, I guess. I like the Whedon style dialogue, even though Jed McKay is no Whedon, in my opinion. Um, yeah, I wanted more. I wanted it to be as good as Uncanny X-Men issue one, and it wasn't. There's not really much more to
This
say
sounds
than
so
that.
derivative, isn't it? Like it sounds so derivative. So not a thumbs up this week, Jim. No.
If we gave stars, I'd give it a 2.5, maybe a 3,
Ooh.
but we don't. So thumbs down.
Ooh. From X-Men to X Factor. So this is written by Mark Russell, art by Bob Quinn, out from Marvel, of course. Now, when Peter Milligan and Mike Allred launched their amazing run on X-Force years ago, and then spawned, in my opinion, legendary X-Statics, right? It was a well-written and beautifully illustrated, because Mike Allred's one of my favourite artists. Satirical look at fame, virability, and the effects celebrity had on fame-hungry superheroes. It was brilliant, breath of fresh air in the whole world of X-Boiled books, right? I loved every page of the story. Mark Russell is trying, and I stress trying, to replicate that success and formula with this new X Factor relaunch. Unfortunately, it's complete and utter toilet paper. I'm sorry, it is toilet paper. To borrow a term from another reviewer, but who put cringe. He's right. I mean, even using the word cringe is cringe, right? But he's right. This was a massive, massive cringe fest. And it tries so hard to be relevant for Gen Zers or Gen Alpha, whatever's current, that actually it detracts from the story, interferes with the story, because you can see this writer trying so hard, right, to be relevant, that you're like, stop. Just stop doing it. It's awful, awful. It's a maelstrom of forced humour, and Mark Russell patting himself on the back in an echo chamber of Mark Russell clones that he bought off Wish. That is basically this book. Anyways, on to the actual book itself, right? We've got Roger Broderick. He's like a talent manager, and he's relaunched X Factor as basically the Cardassians of the X world, right? The team is all Z-listers, and it's led by Angel, who can't transform into Archangel. I can't remember why. That's probably happened in the Krakoa thing. But anyway, there we are.
One of the original 5 Xavier students as well.
Yeah, exactly. And, now no one cares. But after a red carpet team reveal event that is not well received by the public and huge backlash on social media, they decide to go and just like chill at this YouTube influencer style house where they're all going to live, right? And they can video it and broadcast it. Awful. Anyway, flashback a few months to Havoc discussing with Polaris that he's thinking of joining X Factor, but she tells him it's a bad idea. She says, look, I joined this other group called X-Term, who were like a mercenary paramilitary group who were headquartered in like a decommissioned Soviet nuclear power plant, right? And she said that didn't work out, that you got to stop fighting and start looking after yourself, and it's just not going to be good for you. Don't join X Factor. Anyway, we jump back to present time. Broderick has sent this X Factor team on a mission, which is secretly a military mission as well. So there's a side story going that there's some military involvement in this. Naturally, it turns to shit. They bring the whole building down upon themselves, which they weren't supposed to do, with Z-list X-Man dying, another Z-list X-Man dying, some other boring Z-list X-person being severely injured. I don't remember the names. It's that boring, that unmemorable. Anyway, Broderick, he spins this as a success because he believes that the public hate mutants. But what the public love more is mutants who hate other mutants. And that's what's going to get the numbers. That's going to get the interest. And then red carpet, bait and switch time. There's a brand new X Factor team. Woo! Consisting of more X-listers, one of them a grandmother X-Man. And as you might have guessed, being led by Havoc. What they needed to do here,
This just sounds like what...
It is.
This just sounds like what James Gunn did with the Suicide Squad movie. That just sounds like they ripped that off.
It is a bit of a rip-off. But listen, honestly, it says on the cover, right, of all the X books, from the ashes, right? What it should have said was reduced to ashes, because that is really all it's worth. Thank God for Gail Simone. That's all I can say.
Yes.
And with that,
in Simone we trust.
In Simone we trust. Yeah, I'm going to make a T-shirt of that eventually. Moving on. Transformers. You don't want to talk about Transformers? All right, we'll move on to the next book.
I do want to talk about Transformers.
Okay, go on then.
I could do half an hour just recapping this up.
I know, Jim. We can't do that. We've got to keep this video under 45 minutes.
Do you want to know what happened? Refer to previous episodes of this show. Anyway, Transformers issue 11, published by Image and Skybound. written by and with cover art by Daniel Warren Johnson and art by Jorge Corona. Let's just drink in that cover for just a second, because Daniel Warren Johnson is a young man on top of his game, and I salute him. So far in this arc, the Autobots have been using a dam to generate energon to revive their fallen. Shockwave and Soundwave have also been using their device, the feeder, to convert sentient sea creatures into energon. Nasty. And use the energon to pull the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron down into Earth's orbit. The mutilated frame of Ultra Magnus lies unconscious in the Autobot's base as RC, his protege, whips over the state he's in after centuries of torture by Shockwave, muttering that if she'd known he was still alive, she would never have left him. You have to understand. Elita 1, the female freedom fighter that rescued Magnus from his torture, tells RC that you made your choice, you abandoned the cause. She's abruptly cut off as RC just punches her in the face, saying, you don't know me. Optimus Prime asks Wheeljack how the repairs on Magnus are going. Wheeljack tells Prime that he's almost got the exterior plating done, but without Ratchet's, the late great Ratchet's expertise, restoring him to full health is going to use all the energon that they've previously collected from the dam. Or we could leave him like this and revive all the other Autobots instead. Magnus awakes at the stands and tells them both, I must be part of this new resistance, Prime. I want to fight. And Prime nods approvingly, his decision made. Cutting to Decepticons now, Soundwave is pleading with Shockwave to revive his dead pet robotic Jaguar Ravage.
My favourite Transformer. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you again. My favourite Transformer. He was just a course. He looked cool. He turns into a little tape. Yes. I loved it. I love Ravage so much. I want one.
Yeah, this scene in the first arc where Soundwave kills Starscream for kicking Ravage.
I honestly, it's John Wick, isn't it? It's Transformers, but John Wick. He killed my dog.
He was definitely channeling John Wick.
Damn right.
But anyway, so he wants Shockwave to revive Ravage, but Shockwave coldly tells him to check his priorities before returning to his fortress on Cybertron via the portal. The Combaticons greet him, asking to see the bounty of the new world that he's brought to them, and he retorts, silence, dogs, telling them not to concern themselves with such things. Then he returns to the torture of previously captured Autobots Jazz and Cliffjumper. Meanwhile, on Earth, Prime and Elita 1 are clashing over plans to rescue their men, with Elita calling Prime a deserter of the war you started, and to attempt a head-on rescue would be suicide. Prime calmly tells her, we're not going head-on. Now, his plan involves using Decepticon Skywarp, who, after being injured in early issues of the series and abandoned by Starscream, his program has been integrated into the Autobots' computer Teletran 1. And he's willing and able to use his teleportation ability to do that for him. Wheeljack tells Prime also that the charges he asked for are ready and coded to his personal keypad. And plus, he's tracking his optics, so he's going to be right behind them. So Prime, RC, and Elita 1 are all transported to Shockwave's lair on Cybertron. But meanwhile, Beachcomber and Spike are watching in horror from their island paradise as all the sea life around them is being converted to energon by Shockwave's vile machinery. Beachcomber states that he still refuses to fight. Maybe they should find somewhere else in the world where they could be happy. But Spike muses, maybe we don't need to fight, staring up at Cybertron. And I think the clever, resourceful humans got a plan here. In the torture parlor, Shockwave backhands Jazz across the face for mouthing off at him. Then continues to start dissecting a worse-for-wear Cliffjumper until Optimus Prime teleports in, surprising Shockwave and stepping from the shadows like Batman. He's backed up by RC, furious at what the Decepticons have dared to do to the captives and Magnus, and she threatens him with her gun. Prime tries to talk her down, saying, don't throw it away, don't throw away how far you've come. This gives Shockwave the window to kick her hard and escape, dragging Cliffjumper with him as a hostage. The Autobots pursue them, and Shockwave is channeling Professor X here. To me, my Decepticons! Summoning the Constructicons and ordering the 6 robots to combine into the mighty giant Devastator. Another of Skywarp's teleportals opens and out charges a tooled-up Wheeljack, followed by a back-to-full health Ultra Magnus looking cool as hell and carrying the biggest gun that series artist Jorge Corona has drawn yet. This would put Cable in the 90s to shame, man. Unfortunately, when he sees Shockwave, he stops in his tracks, drops his gun in terror. He blurts out, I'm sorry, I just can't. and then he transforms back into a truck and drives away as fast as he can.
Oh, no.
Shockwave turns to her face the stunned remaining Autobots, cackling, "I broke his mind, and now I shall break your bodies," as the issue reaches its conclusion.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? We've got one more issue to go with this arc. Daniel Warren Johnson is staying on for at least 2 months more to do a little mini arc about Starscream. So I'm hoping that he re-ups his contract and stays from this book.
Excellent.
I just want to
it's
read
been
this every month.
consistently good, right, for you? The whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Amazing.
I'm a Transformers fan anyway. Transformers the movie is one of my favorite pieces of media.
It does help,
any form.
when you've got that connection, right?
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't keep on reading a shitty Transformers book, and this is far from that.
Well, I'm really pleased. Because when you love something, a property like this, and it turns to shit, it kind of hurts a bit, doesn't it? Yeah. Right. Moving on to one which almost slips under the radar. Garth Ennis and Jason Burrows. I've got a new book
Garth
together.
Ennis?
Yeah, I know. Garth Ennis, Burrows, a new book, no brainer. Ahoy Comics is the publisher. I think they're relatively new. I've not seen much from them myself, but anyway, I picked it up. Babs #1. So it introduced us to like a new classic fantasy world filled with like humor, action, the typical irreverence Ennis is known for. Yeah, it's actually like well, it centers around Babs. She's a barbarian thief with a sharp tongue and a sarcastic magical talking sword called Barry, right? Which is straight up Ennis's street, right? But Babs is like, she's cynical as well as she's as witty, and she's always ready for a fight. And she's really good at it, right? She's badass. It's basically what happened if you took Dungeons and Dragons and a beer-drinking, foul-mouthed Red Sonja and then put tons and tons and tons of gratuitous violence on top of it, right? So think
You have to read this.
Yeah. All right. So you should. Babs is broke and she's looking for the next job to make some coin. And she's sitting in a bar chatting with her equally balanced friend Izzy. There's a group of nasties show up, right? And they're the usual mix of like orcs, goblins, trolls, human degenerates. And they accuse her of being the daughter and killer of King Grislock, right? They don't like her. And they don't like the fact that the male Grislock has been replaced with a female Grislock. Now, although this is quite funny, it does feel like it's clearly referencing modern issues right now surrounding woke, anti-woke, about changes that are going on in comics and movies. Let's just say, MCU, Disney. I'm not sure if Ennis is being woke or anti-woke, but it pulled me out of the book from it to think, well, what is he trying to say here, and why are you saying it here? It just took the edge off slightly. Anyway, getting back into the book, I would imagine he hates woke shit. But anyways, this motley crew, they call Babs some names and provoke a fight, and she kicks the hell out of them in some quite humorous ways, which you'll see when you read it. And then she takes their coin, ends up getting absolutely vomit drunk with her mate Izzy. Later on, she's hunting small animals for the fur to line her armor, because you introduced with her where she's complaining that her tits are itchy because of the chainmail. So she's looking for some animals to take the fur and pad the armor. She's chatting with her mate Izzy at the time, and we learn like in the chat that she ran away from princess school when she was 12, which further sort of implies that she maybe was the daughter of a king. But it goes unexplained and quickly moves on as she accidentally fires an arrow into the ass of a bear, which then chases her talking horse, and her talking sword. And they eventually end up, all three of them, up a tree with the bear at the bottom, looking menacing. We skip back to the village where this is all kind of like erupting and happening, and we get the hints of a sort of a larger conflict emerging as a group of sort of antagonistic knights turn up to the village, all wearing a very, very specifically shaped S logo, which may or may not be identical to a certain fascist World War II regime insignia. And now that implies that although the comic is lighthearted, it's going to get dark, as you would expect from an Ennis book. But they don't explain. Yeah, they don't explain who they are. We just know they're baddies. Jumping onto the art, Jason Burrows complements the story perfectly, as he normally does. He brings this fantastical world to life with super detailed panels. It's vibrant, it's gruesome when needed. And he seems to have this talent for depicting action scenes with like creativity and humor at the same time. And he makes like even the most brutal fights. It's just funny and entertaining. I love it. I just love it. So I was expecting something as clever as the Pro. I didn't quite get it, although it is laced with his trademark dark comedy with the blood and absurdly funny stuff. I felt a little unfulfilled, but I liked it enough to give the next few issues a go. Maybe it's just first issue blue, setting it up, trying to really get you in the world. Not terrible. So I think a thumbs up from me.
Sounds
Something
fun.
else, it does. Something else I wanted to sort of just mention this week, which I would have loved to review, but it's a completely separate video, is there's a new 144-page hardcover out called Houses of the Unholy from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. And we all know how good that's probably going to be. So if anyone does read it, let us know what you think. I'm going to try and read it this week as well. It sounds like a cracking book. And that moves us on to Book of the Week, Jim. What's yours going to be?
Yeah, it does. Well, I don't know. It was a three-way battle this week because Pornsec Pick a Shot did an amazing job on Task Force 7 issue 4. Into the Unbeing issue 3 was fantastic, and I think Zach Thompson, the writer of that, is doing an Alien Romulus one shot for Marvel soon as well.
Looking forward to that.
That's going to suit his talents pretty well, I think. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's Transformers.
It has to be, right?
Daniel Warren Johnson recently won 2 Eisners, and this is the highest award that I can give him. Book of the Week.
Fantastic.
Transformers issue 11.
I'm sure he'll put that award next to his Eisners, mate. Amazing. For me, it can only be the Ultimates 3. Yeah, you're well done, mate. For me, it has to be Ultimates 3. Everything else was pretty poor.
Wow, almost 3.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I liked Babs, but I think Ultimates 3 just showed a little bit of real thought this time. And that introduction of She-Hulk and her backstory, I really liked it. So that's for me.
Looking ahead to next week, reading it now.
I think, force yourself through issues 1 and 2, right? But then just pretend it doesn't start until 3. Hopefully it will carry on going. I mean, it is what it is. Next week's books, Jim, look really good. I've got more Gatchman with Gatchman Galactic 2. Nightwing, which has been consistently great. Tom King on Jenny Sparks. Ultimate Spider-Man 8. And we have a Mr. Jonathan Hickman on a Wolverine book. Wolverine Revenge. So it looks amazing. We'll both chip in on that one. I know you want to.
I did notice. Yeah. So you got Wolverine. So I'm going to go Deadpool issue 5. We left him. He was not in a good state. So I'm interested to see where that picks up. And the funniest rivalry that I've seen in a while from Dan Waters, Destro issue 4. Can't wait to read more of that too.
That's it. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Tell us what you think. We don't care if we're terrible. We'll get better. See you next week. Take care, guys.